here for CAA football. The Blitz as we continue.
And he may go the distance. Terrence
You're going to put yourself in a situation and win a lot of football games.
Bobby Broyles and Scott Meyer here for CAA Football, The Blitz, 11 teams in 11-day series, as today we preview the Villanova Wildcats. And Scott, a very tough season for a very young Villanova squad last year, but the great part about being a very young team is that everybody's coming back. Let's start on the defensive side of the football, where they have their returning CAA Defensive Rookie of the Year and linebacker Dylan Lucas.
Yeah, Dylan Lucas, one of those names that kind of jumps out in terms of the youngsters in this in the FCS, not just the CAA football conference. A nightmare for a lot of the coaches in the later part of the season to have to deal with. You talk about Villanova's defense only having to replace James Pitts. Everybody else is coming back. Dylan Lucas, the middle guy in all of that. Look for him to have a big season, but that certainly is the key point of that defense. Dylan Lucas is going to be one of those names. He was a top freshman tackler in all of the country last year, so he's going to be one of those names to pay attention to as we get into the 2012 season.
Well, head coach Andy Talley talked about his young linebacker and what his expectations for Dylan Lucas this season.
Dylan is really a special player for us. He played at 205 pounds as a true freshman. He got knocked around a little bit, but this year he's 235, much bigger, stronger, faster, and he has a lot of confidence. He played in all 11 games, and I think he'll be a definite leader on defense.
And on the offensive side, Scott, Chris Poloni has been named the starting quarterback in the offseason, and he'll have a big-time weapon returning this season in Norman White, an NFL prospect.
Oh, no question. Norman White's an NFL prospect. I think Villanova fell on hard times early last year, especially early, literally right before the Temple game, when Norman goes out with an injury for the entire season. And they had question marks at the quarterback position. Poloni was a young guy that they weren't confident in terms of leadership on the field. I think they thought the game moved a little bit too fast for him. As the season wore on, Poloni kind of grew into that role. I think now you look for consistency out of all of those guys. They're all a year older. And then you get Norman White back into that rotation. You look for that offense to spark, because Poloni's going to get better as the season wears on, as he did over the offseason. You got Norman White there. You got some guys that have played in the backfield. And then you also got some receivers that have been there a while. They're not young guys on the outside. They're some older guys on the outside that they can depend on. I think they're going to be one of those teams offensively that surprise a few people.
Once again, head coach Andy Talley on the return of his star receiver, Norman White.
Well, Norm is huge for us because he's your go-to receiver. He's a pro prospect, I think one of the better receivers in the country. And so he gives you the opportunity to make big plays, which we lost last year without him. So we're excited about having him back.
As you see, Coach Talley very excited to have his veteran receiver back in the lineup. Scott, just like Richmond, this team is, not too long ago won the national title in 2009, but a very young team, like we said, 20 starters returning into the lineup. What are the keys to Villanova this season in 2012?
Well, I think you mentioned it earlier. Everybody's a year older. I think the saying goes amongst coaches, everybody has a birthday. That means they're older. That means they have experience. They know what it takes to play in big games. But they've played. That's the key thing in our level of football. A senior-laden team is usually the more successful team. These guys may not be seniors, but they've been in game experience. They have game experience. Look for this team, Villanova, to be one of those surprise teams in the league. Not saying they're going to make the playoffs or anything like that. I can't go out on that limb right now. But you can look for them to be more successful than they were last year. Maybe even win some games that on paper they may not be picked to win.
Well, Villanova looking to improve on their 2-9 record overall last season. They open up their 2012 campaign as they will play in their city rival Temple in the Mayor's Cup, a game that will be televised live on ESPN3 August the 31st. CAA Football The Blitz 11 Teams in 11 Days continues tomorrow as we preview the tribe of William and Mary as they begin life this season without one of the most decorated players in all of CAA football in running back Jonathan Grimes. For Scott Meyer, I'm Bobby Broyles. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.